Everyone, we'll get started in a couple minutes. Just give people a chance to get here from their last calls. So thanks for your patience. We'll be right back with you. All right. Thanks for everyone for being patient. I think we'll get started, and anyone else who joins will have to miss the first couple of minutes. We're going to get started with the agenda and just talk about what we're gonna cover today. Patch everything and miss nothing. We want to give you some cross-platform best practices, just general patching information about how Bacon does it and how to stay ahead of things. So today, in a moment, I'll do intros. Then we'll just kind of talk about the state of patching today, some brief slides, and then we'll talk about the best practices and jump into a demo. So Dave will do a demo. And to get with introductions, my name is John Marcato. I am the CTO and co-founder of Bacon Unlimited. And joining me today is Dave Adekoya, who is our senior engineer and master demo expert. So thanks for joining me today, Dave.
Always happy to be here.
Fantastico. Let's kind of get through the housekeeping in the slides here, with some relative speed. We use the GoTo platform. So if you haven't used it before, there is a place on your little tab that popped up to enter questions. We're going to launch a poll in a little bit. It'll pop up for you, so there's nothing to do except answer. And we'll try to answer any questions you have in line. And then in addition, at the end, there's a survey, and we greatly appreciate you checking that out. You can also get a t-shirt from us if you want. We'll be reaching out to you if you want one to see what your size is and where to send it. So with that being said, let's move on to the next slide here and start talking about what is the state of patching today. So what do we mean by that, right? The state of patching. Well, we have to patch all of our systems, and that includes things that even go beyond what Bacon does. So things like, firewalls and time clocks and all kinds of devices out there need fixes. But one of the most challenging is endpoints. And the reason for that today is, one, endpoints are much larger in terms of the operating system size, and the applications that go on them are much larger. So patches for those pieces of software and operating systems are also larger. People are distributed, so people are all over the world working at companies, and IT has to figure out a way to keep their endpoints secure and up to date, and that is a big challenge. So 71% of IT professionals say patching is overly complex, and I think that in this day and age, it's kind of a crazy thing. So we try to do as much as we possibly can to mitigate that. And essentially what we're sort of thinking about is how do we overcome, this inconsistent nature of which patches are done on different types of operating systems? How do we get rid of manual steps? And also, how do we give people visibility when they need to meet compliance pressures and so forth? So that's kind of the state today. Is very challenging still to get huge fleets of machines done, and IT is expected to magically make this problem go away. Dave, why don't you switch the slide over, and we'll kind of keep digging into that a little bit after we do this poll. And I'm waiting for the poll to pop up. Lane, can you force that poll to pop up? There it goes. All right. How confident are you in your current patching process across all your operating systems? Very confident, somewhat confident, not very confident. We'll just wait for you all to answer. So far, we've got right down the middle.
If it helps, I'm very confident, but I can't vote.
Okay, we got 2 more voters we're waiting on. And everybody actually answered the same. So somewhat confident seems to be the overarching. I think a couple people, some people didn't even vote, but nonetheless, it timed out. So for those who voted, thank you. And this is kind of what we find. People are patching, but they're kind of having inconsistent results and not confident that they're going to be able to get it done to the best of their ability. So that's where Bacon comes in, and we'll move beyond this poll here and back to the slide deck. And essentially, we need to prioritize what matters most. So I think this is one of the big challenges of patching is not all patches are created equal, right? Security seems to be and should be sort of the highest thought on what to do with patches. And so we need to focus on threats with the highest risk. And to do that, you need to be able to identify those risks. So that's something that Bacon is very good at because we have full vulnerability management also built into the suite. And we're matching security related patches, not just to operating systems, but also to third-party software. And we're matching that in the software. So you can get a good sense of what things really need to be prioritized. And one of the favorite things we do is we have something called the KEV list, which is, we didn't make that. That's from CISA, the government organization. And they actually can tell you which vulnerabilities are being attacked in the wild. So essentially, if you have a patch to do that will solve one of these vulnerabilities that's found on the KEV list, which we fully match in there for you, you want to deal with those right now. Like, don't go to lunch, don't finish work for the day, get that patched. That's going to be your most serious stuff. But also, you're going to have our ratings, and we're going to be able to see that as well. Next slide. Automation, huge part of this because there's just too many machines and too many patches. So Bacon gives you a whole bunch of methods to automate and to do it at a level that you like. The common thing is to test on some machines and then kind of let it rip, right? And that way you're not sitting there doing just little batches all day and spending a huge amount of time. So it's a single workflow for all 3 operating systems that we support. So 8 flavors of Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. That's both servers and laptop/workstation version. So you can really run jobs much more easily. You can take huge swaths of patches and patch all those operating systems at the same time if you want. And the automation really helps save time and reduces human error as well. Next slide. We do third-party applications. I think I already mentioned that, but it is one of the most attacked surfaces. When you see some of these apps on here, like a Dropbox or a Slack or any of the browsers like Chrome and Firefox and many others that are out there now. Huge source of vulnerabilities, huge point of attack. People don't even realize they're being attacked just by using the internet or using these apps. So very important to also patch the third parties. Next slide. And confirmation. We need visibility of what got touched. And so we actually have a couple of valuable ways of confirming. And the reason for that is machines are very temperamental, and so are the people that use them. So you're patching people, you're sending out, tons of patch jobs and things like that. And people are constantly, letting their machines go to sleep or closing their laptop or going into changing networks and things like that. So what happens is you need to be able to track that these updates are occurring. And while you can track the job status, and that's something that Bacon has, and it's basically real time, if someone does close something in the middle, you may not get feedback from that machine that it was able to successfully finish the patch. But the good news is that when the machine comes back online and a new inventory gets pulled, because it's always being updated in Bacon, you'll know whether or not that patch has been applied and still needs to be applied. So a lot of good information is readily at your fingertips in Bacon, and you always know what you still need to clean up. It's easy to see the problems and the detritus. Next slide. And the other thing that we do is because we have a lot of ways that you can patch, you can kind of do like patch right now, instant type things of certain patches or groups of patches. That's all really helpful. And then our advanced scheduling allows you to set recurring patches and do sort of what we call more of the patch approval workflow. Um, and there's a lot of flexibility there in terms of how you can set that up for different groups of machines and things like that. But I think one of the best things we do is we have a user interactive experience. And so if I really want to get patches done, or maybe just reboots after patches that have been installed but haven't, they need a reboot to complete, but they have actually been installed. We have the ability to set essentially deadlines on these functions. So you could say all these Windows laptops, I want to set a deadline of Friday at 5 p.m. and today's Thursday, and a little message is going to pop up from Bacon on their computers, and it is going to give them really important options. You may have seen these. Apple kind of has this. I don't think they do it well enough, but for their own built-in sort of patching functions. But I like the concept, which is they're going to say, look, we know you might be busy, so you can defer this message right now, and it'll pop up again in an hour or in a day, depending on which deferral you choose and how far it is between now and the deadline. But ultimately, this little applet is going to pop up. It's going to say, look, you've got these patches, they have to get installed, or this reboot has to occur. And you can click to do that now. You can click to schedule a time. It has a full scheduling function. It's very easy for the end user to interface with. You can do the deferrals, as I mentioned. Um, and but if you don't do those things, if you just ignore it, one, all this stuff is tracked. So from Bacon, you can tell if they've interacted, if they've seen the message, if they've clicked on it, any of those things. You can also, uh, uh, because of the deadline, you can also rest assured that that patch is going to happen at that deadline if they don't do it. So that's a really important function. I always like talking about it because it's a little newer to Bacon in the last year. But it really allows you to include them in the process, give them the best chance to have the least downtime and at the most convenient time. So it's really become very popular with all the remote users out there. Next slide. And the benefits of having a unified patch strategy is, sort of one place to go look for all of your endpoints, right? We know that, people have asked us, oh, can you guys do managed network equipment, stuff like that? We don't, and there are usually manufacturer-specific tools to manage those things. But with endpoints, you have different manufacturers, you have people at different versions of the operating system, different software installed, and so that's kind of where we come in. So you can reduce risk, be ready for compliance, and improve your team's productivity. Okay. And so with that, I think it's time to take a look at this stuff. And thank goodness Dave is here because he's really good at it. So I'll hand it over to you, Dave, to give these folks a demo of this fun process.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to get my screen share switched over. I'm going to walk through what patching is like in Bacon. All right, so here we have our Bacon UI. This is my demo server. I also have a second one pulled up here in the background to show off some stuff, but let's go ahead and get started. So first thing to kind of mention, which is important, is Bacon is cross-platform. So the features we're kind of showing off here will span across, your standard Windows, both workstation server, Mac OS, of course. No more Mac server, unfortunately. And then Linux as well, desktop or server. So let's go ahead and start with what patching looks like in Bacon. First place I want to go to is actually over in the patching and available. What this is doing is Bacon is pulling all the machines you have in your environment, and it's going to figure out by their native patching method who has patches available. I'll use Windows for example, since we're all pretty familiar. So in the case of Windows, we're going to ask the Windows Update agent, hey, what patches do you see? What's available? And then we use that information to build this table. How this works is if we actually, I'm going to filter for Windows just to keep this a little bit smaller here. Let's go by platform, Windows. And then I'll just click on one of these so you can see the data we're pulling back. So this is all coming from the machine, so we know it's correct. And so we can see what the categories are if Microsoft assigns any, what the description is, and if it does or does not need a reboot. And then how you actually patch is you just select your patch here, go to Actions, and Install. This is good for just a spur of the moment, like one-time patch where you're sitting at the console and you want to get something done. So here you can see our patch up top. Now down here, you're only going to see the machines that need that patch. We're going to filter out all the wrong OSs. We're going to filter out all the machines that don't need it. So in this case, only one of my machines needs this cumulative update. And then I can just check this machine and we get into scheduling. So to kind of gloss over this quickly, we can push it out right away. This guy's offline, so it's probably a poor choice. What I would do instead is use run when connected. That's going to allow them to essentially check in later. It'll queue it in the system and then present them with the job and run it once the machine comes online. You also have the option to schedule, so you can pick a date and time, as well as relentless mode. This is like a nice little time frame, so you can set a start and stop time, and Bacon will install a series of patches and then reboot and keep going until either it runs out of patches and we're done, or you exceed your time frame. That's really good for catching up older machines or ones that have fallen pretty far out of date with a lot of those larger cumulative and security updates. And lastly, you have usually the start of the show schedule with deadline. What this does, this allows you as IT to set your threshold for how long this is going to take. So let's say if I wanted someone to patch, I might give them until, let's say, the 12th. And what will happen is they'll get a pop-up on their screen that says, hey, user, you have a patch to install. You have until the 12th before the system does it for you. When would you like to do it? And they have a little interactive UI to choose that patch and then choose the time and get it done that way. Before we go too far, let's go and take a look at what that looks like. So I've pulled up a machine over here, just a Windows machine. This is a pretty good example. So I pushed a single patch here, and excuse the small resolution, but you get the idea. It'll pop up with the user and say, hey, you can do it now. Remind me again, schedule. And then again, worst case scenario, you can see right here, action required by the 30th of September. So even if they don't choose something, by that time, the machine will then patch and then do it as I need to for my reporting on the IT side. So that's pretty good. It's just like a single pass, but we have additional features too. So whenever we're actually sending that patch job out, we want to get some information on what actually happened, when it happened, if there are errors, that kind of thing. And for that, we actually go over to our logs. So I'll use this window here, go to my logs in my jobs, and you'll see this is the patch that I queued up for my deadline job. So it's still pending because there's not any work done on it yet. It's just been sent to the machine. But then up here, I can see what it looks like to patch, in this case, a Linux system, but the data will be the same, just kind of, or the presentation will be the same. The data is a little different. So here you can see the actual machine. If I had multiple, it would show you each machine along with their progress installing each patch. This is a good one. If you see everyone's missing one patch, it's probably one of those weird Microsoft ones. You've got to like adjust a partition size or something's airing out across the board. Then on the patch details side here, you can see it by patch. So here I push two things as updating Bluetooth and their interaction with Bluetooth and cups. And so I have all this information too. Again, if I had a failing patch, maybe like Blue's cups was failing, then it would be 0 for everyone across the board, kind of a pretty indicator to look at stuff, as well as the very top overview here saying how successful were you. Now for any logs, I can just click over here. I have no errors here, so it's just going to say installed. But here's where it output any information we're getting. So if there's any codes we get from the update agent or any text, we'll push that back to you so that you can see why the actual job failed and then make intelligent decisions from there. So that's all well and good, but we also have additional ways to patch. From here, I was going through and looking at the patches saying, all right, I'm going to push out this update because of what it is, but we also have the security side to consider. So if I go over to vulnerabilities here, it gets a little different. So here we have CVE and we have Tenable. We do have time with Tenable, so we can use their CVE engine. But for this demo, I will just use our built-in one here with the agent. So when I click on CVE here, it's going to give you a breakdown of all the vulnerabilities found in your environment. This is my demo server. You can see we've got thousands upon thousands. And what you're able to do here is just quickly search for the CVE. And if I like drill down into one of these, I can actually go here and see what the remediation could be. I'll go here, it links me over to NIST, as John was saying, that's where we're pulling a lot of our data from. And then I can go through each CVE from here and figure out what I need to do. Now, a lot of these things are going to be as simple as update the application. So let's kind of use that as an idea. Over in compliance, I can see my CVEs by like occurrence. I can see how many have occurred in my environment, how many are resolved. This is pretty good for just getting an idea of what you need to start working on if you don't have specific CVEs you're hunting down. As well as you can also see this by endpoint too. So I can find all of my like high value servers and workstations and make sure they're patched up and taken care of as well. So you can see some of these are, a lot of these are not. And then lastly, for all your reporting needs, we have history. This shows you what we saw and when. You can set your filter date range here and then find it and then export it as need be from there. When it comes to actually doing stuff, we go down to the remediator. This is really good for data, but we want to actually fix problems. With our remediator, we're able to do a couple things. We can patch, and it's using the same exact UI you just saw, but here it's patching in response to CVEs. So I have a bunch of offline endpoints from like this demo server to keep these vulnerabilities in here, but you kind of get the idea. We're able to go through here. There's a patch available for this one. And so all I'd have to do as an admin is go to Actions and Install, and it's going to already select the machines I need by itself. I just basically have to hit the Go button, and I can go from there. The other options you have are going to be configuration. So let's say you have something where you've got to change like registry keys, or there's an unsafe config. That'll load in here. And again, it's like a 2-click deploy. And then lastly, packages is for those third-party applications. Like in this case, I have like a super old VLC, very old Firefox. You can see even here, CIS exploited. So if you have this like CIS exploited, as John said, you want to prioritize this one here because we know it has actually been exploited versus like something theoretical we found ahead of time. And again, same kind of deal. You go to Actions, and in this case, Upgrade. Now, when it comes to actually automating things, that's where it gets pretty good. So we have this feature called the scheduler. We're able to go through here and define custom schedules. So I can go through either on the calendar view and see when my schedules are popping up, or I can go through the list view over here and see all the schedules that have been defined. Now, when I'm doing this, it's actually very granular. You're able to go through here and you can do it on like a weekly basis. But I think for most of us, we're probably doing it monthly. And so in my case, I'm actually able to target something like the third Tuesday of the month. And I can set a recurring schedule this way, and then I can push my patch jobs to it. So that's one half. The other side is, well, okay, it's all well and good, Dave, but earlier you saw me patching and I was choosing it one patch at a time. We don't want to have to come in here every month and choose patches that we know we're going to push out anyway, especially for like security and stuff like that. And so we have this feature called pre-approvals. This allows you to go through the system and predefine how you want to handle certain categories of updates. So for Windows, I'm just going to type in update here. And for my demo, I like to patch out critical updates, definition updates, and security updates. I have this approval set to 7 days. So what I'm targeting here is basically a week after they've been released is when I think it's safe to install them. And then Bacon will figure out what critical definition and security updates are available and then just push them out for me. So what I'm able to do is if I go back to available, instead of picking my patches one at a time, I can go through here and go to actions and install approved patches. I can actually filter specifically for my categories if I want as well, and only push out these 3 like so. And so I can deploy these now, but again, automation's kind of my thing. So what we could do instead is I can choose one of those schedules I have. In this case, my patch endpoint schedule runs every third Tuesday of the month. I can push it over there. And then just like that, now moving forward, it'll push that out to my endpoints until I either stop it or I guess remove those endpoints from Bacon. So it can be super easy to handle these patches because again, a lot of these are just updating your OS, updating your software, modifying these configs. Those are all very doable, and then it frees up your time to do all the like actually roll up your sleeve style work. You've got to go figure out a problem and like propose different solutions and stuff like that. So that's a pretty quick walkthrough on how we handle patching, both from just a, hey, let's get rid of the patches and from a vulnerability standpoint. But John, just want to double check anything I missed or anything you want to add.
No, I thought you did a great job. I think overall, just realizing that there are multiple ways to patch and multiple methods to get through. You can also visit us on our YouTube page and watch what we call Bacon Bit videos, lots of little short videos there that kind of show how different things work and give you ideas. Or you can set up a demo with us directly, and we're very, very happy to help anybody kind of dig into this and understand how it would work in their environment. But if it wasn't clear today, you install agents on all your machines, and wherever they go in the world, you can interact with them, you can remote to them, you can run these patches on them. It's a very, very full set of capabilities to control endpoints in your environment or in the world at large that are under your purview. And it's very, very not just powerful, but pretty easy to learn as well. So that's kind of the gist of Bacon and the patching thing in specific, which is what a lot of people are very interested in using it for. If you have any more questions, please let us know. We'll be reaching out again about those t-shirts. And thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And please fill out the survey if you would be so kind. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.